Hello, everybody. This is Vincent Price, Price Stamp of Approval. Here's a lesson for you today. Primarily, it's going to be for those students who, for them, English is not their first language, and they're having a little bit of trouble figuring out whether to use the word "the" or not. So, the topic of this lesson is to thee or not to thee. That indeed is the question. Okay, so follow along with me. So, we got this article. Pronounce the. Some of you might say the. It doesn't really matter. Okay? Essentially, this is an adjective. It's just describing what we're talking about. Okay? An adjective adding more description. So, let's give you a closer look here. So, we have the word the, and so we need to figure out when it's going to be used, or when it needs to be used, and when not to. Okay? So, if you are writing research, drafting papers, and different things like that, especially in the sciences, you might find that you're going to need to know the difference between using the, and not. So here is the big difference. So it's going to be whether you're trying to be specific or you're trying to be general. It's just simple as that, specific or general. Okay. So for instance, if I'm talking about test tubes, for whatever reason, test tubes. That's my subject. That's my topic. And I want to write this. Now let's see whether you'll be able to figure out the difference between these two sentences. The test tubes were then removed. Okay, so the test tubes were then removed. And then we have the second sentence. Slightly have to change the structure of the sentence just a little bit to prove my point. All right, so we have the test tubes were then removed and test tubes are removed. Okay, so remember that I said that the difference between using the is whether you're trying to be specific or general. Cheap. Cheap. That marker was supposed to be new. Sorry about that. Here we go. Yeah, that's nice. All right. So if in this first sentence we have the test tubes were then removed. Okay. So we're using the word the to be very specific. We're talking about a specific set of test tubes. Okay. Perhaps I mentioned using test tubes earlier in my sentence or earlier in my document. And so now I'm referring back to those. So it's a reference back to what you've already mentioned. The test tubes were then removed. Okay, so we're being specific. We're talking about particular test tubes. The second one is general. Test tubes are removed. Okay, so in whatever case, in all cases, this is what happens to test tubes because of the fact that they are test tubes. Okay, they're not necessarily, it doesn't matter whether I'm using them or not. The fact that they are test tubes in this sentence, it's very general. And so this is what happens in all cases. All test tubes are removed. So test tubes are removed. Okay. Let's try another sentence. Let's try with the articles. Yeah. So let's just say the research will be reviewed. And I just noticed that I'm writing sentences in passive voice, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But the research will be reviewed. Okay, so is this sentence, in this sentence, is research specific or general? The research will be reviewed, specific or general. We have the use of the word the or the. So in this sentence, I'm referring to a specific body of research. Specific body. So I'm talking about some research, not just in general, but something that either I referred to before. Yeah, it has to be something that you referred to before, okay, in this case. Okay, so it's specific. Let's try one more, just so we can get this pattern. Okay, I'll put it right here, and I'm going to have you try to see whether it's general or specific, and whether we need the or not. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I have participants that were selected will notice that my sentences, in addition to being passive, and again, we'll talk about that later, are along the research vein. So for those of you who are completing dissertations or theses or any kind of research, this is primarily for you. Participants that were selected will complete the survey. Okay, so participants that were selected will complete the survey. So that's what we have. So we're talking about, let's draw our attention to participants right there. So does that subject, participants, need to be specific, or are we just talking about participants in general? I'll give you some time to think. Are those participants specific, or are they just general? Read the rest of the sentence to get you some insight. We have extra details, participants that were selected. So I'm not just talking about all participants. I'm not talking about participants in all cases. I'm talking about a specific group, the ones that were selected. And because of that, because I'm being specific, what do I need to add to the beginning? The word the. The participants that were selected will complete the survey. Okay? So always, if you're having trouble choosing between the and choosing between the but nothing, think about whether you're actually being specific or whether you're actually just speaking in general. Okay, if it's specific, if it's something or you've already referred to, or if it's just one thing that you're trying to narrow down, then it's just going to be the. If it's something in general, if you're just trying to state the characteristics of things, you use nothing. So cats do this. The cats in my study did this. Students generally do this. The students generally did that. Okay, so students in general, this is what they did. This is how they typically respond. But these students generally did this. Now I'm talking about what my particular body or group of students actually did. Okay, so to thee or not to thee. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to provide more insight, more feedback, and more support for you. This is Vincent Price with Price Stamp of Approval. Follow me on Facebook, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Price Stamp of Approval. You can find me. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a fantastic day.